Hey guys, it's DPSI. I have another video for you guys today, another self-analysis. This game is against Jokas, a player who's ranked a bit above me, and I managed to pull out a victory. I think I'm going to alternate wins and losses in my self-analysis so that I get equal parts figuring out what I did right and equal parts figuring out where I messed up. Let's go into CO choice really quick. We both went Olaf. I had another game starting on this map at about the same time, and it was both tier 2, and I opted to go Olaf in this game and Eagle in the other game. And the other game is versus our Tamriel. That's an Eagle Ditto, and this game is an Olaf Ditto. So let's see how this goes. All right, so let's look at the first move. Let's see, so I'm pink. My first move on the one base side, I opt to move forward first. At this stage, the capture phase is there's a lot of possible moves, so I'm not going to go into every possible move, but another very common option is to capture this city first. Over here, I capture. Oh, wait, I messed that up. Really? Oh yeah, that's an error. I should have moved there. During the passive check versus I analysis video that I've been working on, I noticed that if you move this infantry this way and build an infantry here, you capture faster. But Blue Moon can't do the same type of capture because they don't have a starting infantry. Instead, their first capture has to be this port, and then another capture a few days later is infantry goes here, starts capturing. Whereas player 2 gets the option of capturing both the city and the port at the same time, and that gives a small income advantage for player 2. Okay, so small details of the capture phase aside, I guess I go base first here, of course. He goes base first, he captures his close city first, but unfortunately for him, he forgets to build an infantry out of the space. He moves down here first. I think I mirror that. I do. Okay, so his turn, starts capturing there, captures closer. Okay, that looks totally good. Again, I might end up making a video or like a spreadsheet or something of like the different types of openings on Brush with Death, just because it seems like there are so many of them. But as of now, I'm just not going to focus too much on the capture phase. Oh, right. So my next turn, nothing too unusual. His next turn, he gets his first vehicle turns out to be an artillery. Oh, did I skip an early vehicle if I wanted to? I could have built an artillery with this, but I wanted more infantry down here to support my first artillery, if that's what I end up doing. Jokas has expressed to me how he thinks the first vehicle being an artillery is pretty powerful, and we'll see how his idea about this plays out in this game. Many times, someone's first vehicle will be a tank on more open maps. It allows you to control more space, but an artillery allows you to like take space that isn't yours a little bit stronger in a very like hand wavy sense. This first artillery, I would say, is not not standard. Many other players would play this move too, but as we'll see, he builds up more artillery on this side, which is a little bit uncommon. Okay, nothing else about this is really standing out to me as being particularly important. Oh, kind of interesting that he captures his comm tower first, because that doesn't give him any funding, the comm tower, of course. So, and I don't see any conflict coming up in the next 3 turns or so, unless I get really aggressive over here or something. So maybe going for the port first would have given him a little 1,000 gold boost in income. Okay, I build an artillery down here, but once I build my artillery, I already have 4 infantry out, whereas he only had 3. I ended up skipping this city so that I can move ahead and capture this city very early. Sometimes this city is contested, so I just want to make sure that nothing crazy happens. Okay, so we're getting into the early mid-game now. That was my artillery buy, and it's his turn now. He has 9,000 gold. Let's see what he does. I think he gets an artillery this turn down. Oh, he actually gets a tank here. Okay. He's able to get kind of aggressive with his artillery because I don't have anything to counter it, of course, so he can kind of do whatever he wants. Okay, so now it's my turn. I tank up on both sides. Tank to respond to his 2-base tank. My own tank to force him to respond. It looks like I'm going to get this property uncontested, and there might be some chance that I'm able to contest this property of his. Okay, that's all I have to say about this turn. So his move. So he moves everything forward, gets a bit of a wall up so he can build an artillery behind this. On my side, he gets really far forward with this artillery, and as I recall, it doesn't do anything, right? Yeah. My tank goes it off. You know what? Actually, if he had been chipping away at this seam more instead of trying to get aggressive, then one of the outcomes of this game might not have happened. So oftentimes opening this pipe seam is very smart because it opens a pathway between your 2-base side and your 1-base side. And almost always that means you're able to reinforce your 1-base side, which is otherwise pretty easily overrun by the 2-base side. Okay, so rather he chose to move way out here, gets nothing for it, and then retreats back to his little corner. Okay, what happens in the meantime? I move up here in a nice little cluster. I'm ready to blast away at my wall. I could have started blasting away this turn, but I really wanted this city, so I move it and then hold off on hurting this pipe seam until a bit later. I build another tank on the 1-base side. My tank count is higher than his. Okay, so that's how this turn goes. And now it's his turn. Kind of solidifies, gets his wall together, gets another artillery. And then up here, does he take a hit on this? No, this is the turn that he moves. Gets a tank behind this because, of course, otherwise it can harass everything. However, it does leave this infantry open, and I'm going to get a free kill here. Or a free damage, I guess. What else is going on here? I get another tank behind this. Down here, I'm chipping away at the pipe seam. And what else? A third tank, so now I'm 3 tanks and an arty versus his 1 tank and 2 arties, his turn. He finally finishes capturing all the stuff up here and builds a black boat. That's a little unexpected. You would think that another tank here or another vehicle here would be a little bit more expected. How much money did he have? He had 1,500. So that's enough for actually what he has here, tank, arty infantry. He could have built that again, but instead goes for black boat. My personal opinion is that black boat probably doesn't accomplish that much, but I could be wrong. I may have just only seen black boat attempts in which the black boat just was unsuccessful. So maybe there is a way of making it work, but I just haven't seen it yet. So let's take a moment and look at the vehicles that he has so far. He has tank, arty on his 1-base side, and on his 2-base side he has arty tank. Whereas I have tank arty, tank arty. So I'm pretty far ahead in the tank count, behind on the arty count, but my thought is with 2 towers, I can break walls pretty easily. So if I can threaten to break his walls and hit his artillery, I can at least slow his advance of artillery down. And he has to be very, very careful not to open himself up to get overrun by tanks. Okay, so let's look at my move. I retreat and consolidate up here. I build a recon countering his black boat drop. And why a recon in particular? From the central area here, since the terrain is so light, you can really cover any of the places that he could drop with infantry. And since it's only a black boat, worst case scenario, he gets a couple of mechs in there, and recon infantry should probably clear that up, no problem. Now talking about my 1-base side, tanks on cities, yes, this is very good because he only has 1 tank. He lacks a lot of offensive initiation capability. He has control, but it's going to come kind of slowly. I think that's the right way to think about it. So now he finally starts getting his tank count a little bit closer to mine with another tank. So I imagine I just sort of stay here and reinforce. Oh, I finally break my pipe seam. Yep, that's very good. Up here, I'm able to attack into it carefully. And once again, I can kind of use my tanks as meat shields because he has so few tanks compared to me. So my real threat is that he flies in here with a bunch of infantry and does damage. Let's see, what else? Oh, he moved his black boat back, so that frees up my recon to come over here and do damage. Recon, pretty good in this situation. Like, the terrain is fairly light, and of course the recon does the same amount of damage as a tank to infantry and mech, so it definitely helps out. And since we both have 2 comm towers, a 120 recon tears up infantry pretty well. Okay, down here, I think we already covered that. His turn. Wall moves forward. Doesn't build out of this base because he really wants to buy a medium tank and an artillery down here. Okay. So noobs beware. Normally you build out of every base every turn, but as you play more Advance Wars, you'll find that there are sometimes exceptions to this rule, and this might be one of them. I mean, like, certainly the medium tank is pretty compelling. The artillery down here, so he might have a couple ideas. One is to move here, and then he can cover part of this terrain so he can safely drop onto none of the squares. If he was grit, this artillery is fantastic, but he's not grit. So the best he can do is cover that square, and I guess this square from me occupying it. Well, point is, like, the good thing about this artillery is that it does draw some of my units away from the main front, and I really want as many units here as I can because he's coming in with a giant wall. Okay, so his other reason for the artillery here is to move up here, start blasting away at the pipe, and then start capturing it. Forget that if you can kill a pipe in 2 turns with an artillery with 2 towers. Let's just assume you can, I guess. So you build the artillery, that's 1 turn, move, shoot, break, capture, capture. So it's 5 turns before you start seeing a return from this investment. And even then, it takes another 6 turns before this investment pays for itself. So that's something like 10 plus turns by the time you get your money back for investing in this artillery. So that's quite a long time. Let's see how many turns this game goes to. So this is day 10. Or when I say turns, I mean days. So this is day 10. So until day 20. It ends on day 19. Okay. So it looks like he didn't get the return on his investment for the city, or he wouldn't have gotten his return on his investment for the city, but it turns out that he actually doesn't really go for this at all. Instead, he just opts to try to drive me away from the coast. Okay, so back on track. His turn, he builds the arty, doesn't build here, medium tank here, infantry here. Also kind of tries a little cheeky river attack type thing. The combination of the river attack, the black boat, the arty, this all indicates to me that he's trying his best to overwhelm and stretch thin my 1 base side, as well as the middle base here that would be supporting it, which is a good tactic. He's clearly thinking very well here. Like, it's a smart move. So my turn. What you see here is I'm retreating as slowly as possible, trying to leave this pathway open for as long as I can. This Neo-tank is really destined to counter this medium tank. That's my reasoning here. Because I only have 1 artillery, so I really need something for the medium tank. And it's easy to stall in this location on this 1 base side, where you build a medium tank, like a Neo tank, or if you can afford it, a mega tank. And then your opponent needs to build its counter, get the counter way the heck up here, and then finally bring it in to finish it off. So it's very common to see somebody get very close, start capturing these cities and these cities before meeting a heavy tank and then having to slow down. Or, for instance, like an artillery hidden behind some heavy tanks over here. You can be really trolly and prolong the capture of this out for a very long time if you have the funds to do so. So looking more closely at my attack this turn, I got a couple of infantry, and I'm pretty confident he's not going to attack into this. He's running out of units. Of course, trading units, if I trade 5 units for 4 of his units, I'm still ahead because my production is twice as fast as his. At this point, I'd like to concentrate more on one front at a time rather than jumping between them, so let's concentrate on the top front first. He gets into a nice defensive position. However, I have a lot of stuff, so I can start trading. Get a tank, artillery, and really prioritize finishing off his weak units too. Let's see what he does here. Okay, good counterattack. But mine is stronger. That looks a little suspicious. I'm not sure why he moved his tank down here. Maybe, I don't know if he missed this Neo tank, because I just get that tank for free. And so I think that looks like a mistake from him. And then with all the high HP tanks that I have, I just fly in there and kill as much as possible. So at this point, he only has 3 units left, and it's looking really bad. Just checking in at the bottom here, I'm very slowly marching my way back, but haven't quite lost yet. So he's in a much worse position than I am on the analogous front. So let's see what he does up here. Builds a Neo tank. And my full HP tanks are starting to feel the burn, so I'm starting to realize that this might not go off quite as smoothly as I anticipated. I attack in, killing the medium tank and defending up. However, I seem to have missed that he had his super CO power ready, or didn't compensate for it or something, because he does this. Flies in there. His path to my Neo tank is a little bit, you notice that the units he kills in order to make it to my Neo tank is a recon and a 1 HP tank. So he actually ends up behind in this exchange because of the way that he had to attack to reach my Neo tank. My wall here turned out to be just perfect. I also have a pipe runner that I built when I saw the Neo tank. When I saw the Neo tank, I built a pipe runner here. Pipe runner is very good as a closing unit, assuming that your opponent doesn't have like a mega tank. So I get my pipe runner involved and slowly bring him into the fray. This counterattack's gonna hurt, but not quite as much. I thought about this turn a lot. This turn took me a very long time to calculate. I was trying to balance a few different things at once. First was that I didn't want his Neo tank to escape to this area of the map, because that would mean that I would have to build a Neo tank to combat this. And at this point, he was attacking, so I needed all the funds I could possibly get down here to hopefully barely fend off this attack, but at the same time, like completely stomp his base here. If I could accomplish that, that would definitely be GG. So like I said, the first order of business was closing off this wall and obviously keeping my indirects safe. So I opted to move here. There was another option I was thinking of where I moved my artillery onto the forest. That way, both the artillery and the pipe runner are able to chip away at anything he builds out of this base. But I thought about it for a long time, and this is the move that I came up with. One of the great things about it is that if he wanted to go free his Neo tank, he would have to kill a useless unit along the way. So what he opts to do, escape with his Neo tank. Just as I planned, I still have this full HP tank left, as well as the pipe runner. Next, I kill everything off and start capturing his base. However, he can still kill it and build something behind this. He does a medium tank behind this. Pretty annoying for me in this situation, but I'm able to just barely kill it off, and once again get to the situation where he has to kill one of my units in order to build from this base again. Now, this is a very good cycle for me because I'm forcing him to build expensive, very defensive units on this base. So, for instance, medium tank or stronger. And since he only has an income of 2,000, if he's forced to build medium tanks out of this base, that means that he can't really fund the rest of his attack down here. He has a choice to make, whether he wants to continue pumping heavy tanks out of this base or whether he wants to try to close the front down here. And that medium tank here is the first choice to do so, but let's kill that and kill it off. He builds another medium tank here, slowing me down even further with a Winter Fury. But at the same time, that means he's only been building infantry out of these bases. And as it turns out, I have just enough heavy tanks to push him off. And he resigns here. Well, I get a Winter Fury off, kill this medium tank, start capturing and join to capture. So I can continue to join to capture this base, and it's pretty much GG here. Okay, so the turn that we started focusing on this front was about here. Let's pick it up and see what was happening down here. As you'll recall, he had the really big infantry wall going, 2 artillery behind it, but not that many tanks. So here, a very, very threatening looking wall, lots of straight lines, which spell death if you're not ready for them. Okay, my turn. I'm gonna wall backwards. There's a common tactic here where since his tanks are concentrated up here and he doesn't have any tanks down here, I can use my tanks as a wall very, very effectively against his infantry. So I'm not too worried about him flying in and sacrificing his infantry or him slowly marching into infantry striking range and then hoping to trade because I can just put tanks out front. It's really his artillery that are going to be pushing my tanks back. Okay, his next move starts capping. This is very methodical. There's not really much I could do about this. Yeah, I don't see an attack. That once this, oh yeah, I also built an anti-air here. The idea is to be a wall breaker. Just because with 2 towers, I believe that anti-air gets 2-hit KO for infantry on forests. Let's verify that. Yeah, that's exactly correct. Okay, good. So that's the reason why I got my anti-air, is to get the necessary 1-hit KOs to open up the position to let my tanks shine. Okay, my turn. Again, notice that I'm using my tanks as the outer wall and having my artillery behind it to trade favorably with any of his tanks. I also understand that since I'm so far ahead in the tank count, getting even further ahead in the tank count is really attractive. So he actually got a 3rd artillery in the mix somewhere. So he's really walled up. Continue to use my tanks as the outer wall and like keeping very minimal surfaces. Okay, the Winter Fury turn, he attacks with everything. And this was another difficult move for me where, I mean, you have to spread out your damage as you need, but luckily he charged my Winter Fury at the exact same time. I mean, that's what the Ditto does. Oh, he also starts capturing this city at the same time that he drops both of his infantry on the Black Boat. It's a nice touch where you're splitting me every way. I diverted I had a tank over here to deal with the Black Boat. So that worked out just fine. I fend all of this off with no real problems, and he ends up retreating into this Black Boat. Okay. And then at this point, I think I build an infantry and a recon, which is just as minimal as you can get. Very good. Okay, back to my one base side. Okay, it was the Winter Fury turn, where he attacks with all his tanks and does quite a lot of damage. But I have just enough tanks in the background to respond pretty brutally with my own Winter Fury. Actually, only one of his tanks survives, and it's with 1 health. I attack back where I can, but this exchange is just going to be really bloody either way. So this looks pretty bad for me. He has quite a lot of 8 HP infantry laying around and 3 artillery behind all of them. He has 2 full HP tanks and another on the way. I have 1 full HP tank, a 7 HP tank, an artillery. I mean, yes, this pipe seam is open, but my tanks still have a while to go before they come down here, and he has the potential of completely mitigating any advantage that I get by opening this pipe seam. So I move my artillery into this little nook. This is another turn that took me forever to calculate. There were some hard moves for me just because there was some wild stuff. Right, and I also build a rocket behind this. The rocket is going to go either here or here, and on one hand, it'll help open up this very tight pipe choke. Well, on the other hand, I can use it to kill off his missiles and open up air, which is always a nice bonus. And it can also protect a bit the area around my artillery. And my artillery also keeps the pipe seam kind of clear, like not totally clear. I had the option of moving my artillery right here, but I think that seemed really dangerous. I couldn't find a way of doing that without feeling scared. So he moves in, moves up very menacingly with all of these infantry, but I have just enough to break everything open. I have just enough to break enough open that his unit count is goes down drastically. Like, note that in this turn he didn't do any damage at all, but I get first strike on this big clump of units, which admittedly is on pretty heavy terrain, forest, silo, mountain, but I strike back pretty hard. Unit count is actually significantly in my favor right now, but that's mostly because he only has a Neo tank up there. Let's see, so his turn, another counterattack. This pipe is kind of jammed. My artillery isn't doing that much for me at the moment. His black boat is ready to start dropping again. His infantry are in this kind of interesting little formation, and it's becoming harder and harder for me to find kills on big units. So let's see what I do. Oh, just kidding. That's a lot of damage. Right, okay. This infantry goes down. Okay, well, we can just watch it play out with the new tool that I now understand how to use. Thank you, Walker. You're the best. So move here, kill off the 2 HP infantry. That dies, and then okay, that infantry comes in, and turns out that's a guaranteed kill. This right here is a guaranteed kill. Kill with both my tanks, so that's this tank gone. And at that point, he's actually running really low on tanks. So I said, heck it, let's kill off all his tanks, and if I have some tanks remaining, then I'm doing really well. So what I did, built a medium tank behind it because I could afford it, and I think he GG's here. Well, almost. Oh, he has a Winter Fury. That's the only reason he has hope. So he Winter Furies. That hurts a bit. It kind of traps this 4 HP tank. Everything's kind of hurt. But I also have a Winter Fury. And I actually opt to move my artillery as a little blocking unit, which is kind of nice. It allows this square to be occupied, so he doesn't do any crazy. Well, I guess he could do tank in, kill, artillery in, move infantry, tank in, and then I get a shot on his tank, and then his artillery gets killed by my tank. Yeah, never mind, that's bad. So, yeah. Consolidate down here. He's attacking from a lot of different areas, but ultimately it's his tank count that's really hurting him. Maybe if he had given up this area completely and invested totally in like tank, 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 I'd be in a worse off spot down here. But then again, it would mean that he would lose the position up here. So I don't know how that fund advantage goes. We could have had a base trade maybe if those two medium tanks had been, say, APCs. Well, if they were APCs, then I would be targeting his Neo tank instead of his medium tank, and then his threat would be totally gone. So maybe he should have known that this was going to be lost, and maybe something other than a medium tank would have worked well. I don't know. That's the way he played it, and that's the way it went. So yeah, that's that game. All right, so let's go over the learning points really quick. The things that I noticed that I'll try to apply to other games. All right, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the last video where I just sort of go turn by turn and explain what happened in the game in as few sentences as possible. Okay, so here we go. Whoops. Whoops, I'm a noob. This is a Jokas move, I think. Question mark. Question mark. He could have blown this pipe open. Black boat that probably doesn't get its value's worth. Big scary wall, but big scary attack by me. Tons of tanks, very few tanks, mostly artillery. Holy moly, that's a lot of damage. Big, giant counterattack from him. Pipe runner from me. He later told me, side note, he later told me that he didn't really think about pipe runner as an option here, so now he knows too. Swag little play here to open up the pipe seam, which I need the reinforcements for, otherwise this is totally lost. He builds medium tank, but that means that he can't build more vehicles down here. He builds another medium tank, which I kill immediately. Still not building any vehicles down here. GG. Okay, that's about it for now. Yeah, the next video that I'll upload in this style will be a loss from me, but overall, I had a lot of fun playing this game. Jokas, if you've watched this video, then thanks for the great game, and thanks for all the conversations you've had with me in the Discord. And I look forward to many more of both. And that's all for now. Thank you.